Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another music marathon on a Thursday this week. Obviously, because I'm off to a gig tonight, so there'll be no live stream because we did it last night. So today's music marathon is another member of the Runaways, and we're looking at Joan Jett and the Blackhearts today. Joan Jett, who was born Joan Marie Larkin in 1958. She's a singer, guitarist, record producer and actress, but mostly known for her work as the frontwoman of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts after her career with the Runaways. Been making music for a long time now, has picked up platinum and gold certificates. She's described as the queen of rock and roll, and the Joan Jett and the Blackhearts were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2015. She has made 13 albums, 12 released worldwide and 1 in Japan. So I've included it. So coming in at number 13, we have the 13th album recorded in 2022. And it's called Changeup, which is an acoustic album. Not quite sure who plays on it, but it's just some of her songs from her past. So I'm not going to go through them in detail. I'll just tell you what's on the album. Long Time, Light of Day, I'm Gonna Run Away, You're Too Possessive, Victim of Circumstance, Coney Island Whitefish, Love is Pain, Crimson and Clover, which is probably the best version on it, song on this album. Oh Woe Is Me, Frustrated, Bad Reputation, Fake Friends, Soul Mates to Strangers, Make It Black, Fragile, I Love Playing with Fire, which of course is a Runaway song, Cherry Bomb, I Want You, 100 Feet Away, and Androgynous. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not very good at these words. Okay, personally, I don't think this album works. Joan Jett does not sound right as an acoustic set. The only one that really did work was Crimson and Clover. The rest don't. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 2 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 12, we have the 7th album from 1990. And it's called The Hit List. And this is the first cover album that Joan Jett did, and they're all famous cover songs. So this has got the classic lineup of the Blackhearts, which was Ricky Byrd on lead guitar, Kazim Sultan on bass, Tommy Price on drums, and we got Ray Davis and Pepe Castro doing some guitar, Ronnie Lawson, who's worked with her for a few times. There's loads of people on here. And Kenny Lugana, who's various instruments and backing vocals, and he's sort of been in the camp for a little while as well. It's got the up-down horns on it, which is Crispin Chloe, Robert Funk, Arno Heck and Paul Lateral. They're on most of her albums as well. So the first track is Dirty Deeds, which is a cover, of course, of the AC/DC song. It's not too bad. It's not as good as the original, but it's not a bad version. Then we get Love Hurts, which of course is an Everly Brothers song and also been covered by Nazareth. One of the better covers on here. I quite like this version. Pretty good. Then we get a Sex Pistols song, Purity Vacant. And I think this isn't too bad. Then we get a Kinks song, Celluloid Heroes. Ray Davies appears on this. It's alright. It's not as good as the original. Then we go for a bit of ZZ Top and a little bit of Tush. Nothing like the original, but still a good version. Then we have a track by Willie in the Chambers. Sorry, I've got an itchy nose. And it's Here, The Time Has Come Today. A really good version. I don't mind this version of it. I like the original, but this is pretty good as well. Then we get Up from the Skies, which is the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It just doesn't sound right. Next up is a Creedence Clearwater Revival song, one of my favourites by them, for me. Have You Ever Seen the Rain? Unfortunately, I don't think they carry this one at all. It doesn't sound right. But my favourite cover on here is the Doors number Love Me Two Times. It's always been a favourite of mine, and they do a really good version. Now here's a song that she'll do. It's not be the first time we'll mention it today. Roadrunner USA, which is a Modern Lovers song. This is the 1990 version. It's alright. At the end of the day, this is just a covers album. Somewhat, some work, some don't. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 11, we've got the debut solo album. It was originally released independently in 1980 as just Joan Jett. But after she signed up with Boardwalk Records, the album was re-released with a new title, and they called it Bad Reputation. First track on here is the title track, Bad Reputation. Great track. One of my favourite songs by Joan Jett. It's absolutely brilliant. Reminds me of the Ramones. That's probably why I like it. Then we have a cover of Make Believe. Bobby Gentry sort of sang this, and I think loads of people. It's a raunchy post-punk version of it. It's all right. Yeah. You Don't Know What You've Got. Great track. Solid riffs in this. Raw. So raw you could cut your finger on it. You Don't Owe Me. There's some nice saxophone on this, which you don't expect, but it doesn't belong on the album, unfortunately. Too Bad on Your Birthday. It's not a bad version of the Ram Jam song. I think this is one of the better covers on this album. Then we go to another cover by a certain GG, and the track is called Do You Want to Touch. When I was growing up, I liked this. As a kid, I loved the song. We can't talk about it, but we can talk about this version by Joan Jett, and it's a great version of it. She does a great version of it. Then we get Shout. Woo! Yes, that one. Isley Brothers done it originally, but it's the song that the person that really gave it some clout was Lulu. It's not a bad version. Let Me Go comes next. It's all right. Then she does another GG track, doing all right with the boys. It's a very good version of it. That's all I'll say. Jezebel, second favourite track on here. The riffs are solid. Don't Abuse Me. A bit of piano on this. Then we have another cover, and this is Woolly Bully. Remember Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, and their version is better. This is okay. Then the last track is another cover called Hanky Panky. Raindrops originally did it, but the one we all know is, of course, the Shondells. I prefer Joan Jett's version. It's much more gritty. Okay, this is the debut album. I've heard both. The one before a record company got out with it, they really improved it, but it's still raw. Still got a lot to learn, although she'd been done with the Runaways, but I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay, coming in at number 10, we got the fourth album by Joan Jett, and the third to feature the backing band, the Blackhearts, and its Glorious Results of Misspent Youth, released in 1984. Then it got reissued in 1998 with a few bonus tracks. The title actually comes from a line of dialogue in an episode of The Honeymooners. So this is the classic lineup of the Blackhearts with Joan. It's Ricky Byrd, Gary, Ryan, Lee, Crystal. I always consider Gary Ryan a part of the classic lineup, even though Kazim is as well. Uptown Horns are on here. So we open up with another cover song. There's quite a few covers on this. And it is one of our own, Cherry Bomb. Classic song from the Runaways. And of course, she did write it with Kim Foley, so why not do it? Second track, another cover, and it's another GG cover. And it's I Love You, Love Me. It is a great track. It's a very iconic track of the 70s, and Joan does a great version of it. And I do like this track. I know that the history and all that, but you can't help liking songs from your childhood. Then we get Frustrated. Some great riffs in here. Bit of a bubblegum rock track. I like that. Hold Me. Not very keen on this one. This is a little bit wishy-washy. It's not very rocky at all. Next track is called Long Time. My favourite track on here. I love this. It's proper funky as well, and I love the sort of groove in the background. Great track. Talking About My Baby, another great track from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Lots of guitar work on this. Excellent track. Then we get another cover. This is the Belmonts, and it's I Need Someone. This is a lot heavier than the original. I mean, I like the original, but this has got more heavy rock vibe to it. Pretty good version. Love Like Mine. It's okay. Joan's vocal doesn't sound very good on this one. And then we have another cover. This time it's Gary U.S. Bond's New Orleans. There's some really interesting version of this. Now, I love Gary's version. This is good, but the best version for me of this will always be Gillan's. Well, that shrieking, I like. It's just a good song. Some Days, the next track. Typical sort of Joan Jett sound that you get to know. The nice drums and the great riffs. And the last track is called I Got No Answers. Not keen on this one, but it has got one hell of a guitar solo from Ricky Byrd. Of all this is a little bit flat in places. Some really good covers on this though, which sort of lifts it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Coming in at number 9 then we have the 5th album from 1986, and it is called Good Music. So it's Joan, Ricky, Gary, Lee and Tommy. Also Kazim Sultan's on this as well. Tommy Price does a bit of drumming, so it's a bit of everybody. Loads of other people on here as well that list as long as your arm. First track is called Good Music, the title track. Love this, my favourite track on this album. It's got that 70s, 1970s bubblegum rock sort of drumming, which I love. Excellent track. This Means War, great little rock track this is. It's got some driving riffs on this, and it's got great vocal, of course. Roadrunner, yes, another version of the Roadrunner. This is probably the best version of the Modern Lovers song for me. It's just got that early post-punk sound to it, pretty good. Then we've got If Ya Want My Love. Love the bass line on this. Don't know if it's Kazim or Gary. It's good track. Then we have a Beach Boys cover, Fun Fun Fun. Don't like this. I think Beach Boys songs are very hard to cover. There's only one version of that, and that is the original. Then we get a track called Black Leather. This isn't too bad. Pretty good. And then we get Outlaw. Just lacks a little bit of beef in that one, I'm afraid. Just Lust. Got a great opening riff. Catches you straight away. Good track. Then we have a Jimi Hendrix cover, You Got Me Floating. It's not a bad version of it, except when it comes to the guitar solo. Then we have Contact. Don't mind this track, solid. Pretty solid album. A couple of the tracks are a bit near, and one of the covers is a bit near. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.3. Okay, then coming in at number 8. Now this is an album. It was a 10th album, but it was only released in Japan. In 2004, it is called Naked. Now the Blackhearts at this time were Doug Canusoli, Sammy Yaffa, Tommy Price, Kenny Laguna, and then a list of people that keep coming in and out playing on the album. So the first track on here is called Naked. It's the typical riffs, but it is lacking a little bit of depth. It sounds more like a demo, if you get my meaning. Bad Time actually isn't too bad. I like the delicate guitar touches on this, really good. Then we get Fetish. Now this is my favourite track on here. It's a good little rocker, and it's got a little bit of depth, but we might talk about this a little bit later. Now the title of the song that I hate saying, but it's my favourite, one of my favourite songs on here. It's called Androgynous, that's it, which is a replacement song. Really good version of it, and it's actually a lot better than the replacements. Then we get another cover of Science Fiction double feature, of course, from Rocky Horror, and this is the punk version, and it isn't too bad. Then we get Right in the Middle. The bass line on this dominates this track. It's really good. Turn It Around. This version just lacks something, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Everybody Knows, probably one of the weakest tracks on this album. Baby Blue, it's got some nice guitar work, but it just sounds unfinished. Kiss on the Lips, again, it just feels unfinished. Water Sign, again, these just sound very lacklustre, nothing thing. Tube Talking, very raw punk rock. It sounds pretty good, I like that. And then we get Season of the Witch, which of course is a Donovan track. It doesn't seem right as a hard rock song. Then we get Bad Time. It's not too bad. Can't Live Without You, good little rocker. And 5, the heaviest track on the album, but it sounds just a little bit unfinished. Okay, this is a strange album. She only released it in Japan, but you can see why when we discuss the next album. There's so many songs on this. Half of them are good and half of them are bad. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. So I must have a drink. I'm really suffering with my nose today. Oh, that's better. Okay, coming at number 7, we have the 11th album released in 2006, and it is called Sinner. Okay, this is a lot of the stuff that appeared on the Japan only album Naked from 2004 in somewhat different mixes, and she replaced some of the songs with some new material. So the band is Joan Jett, Dougie Needles on guitars, Enzo Penzotto on bass, Tommy Price on drums, and Kenny Laguna on the keyboards and backing vocals. So the first track is a new track called Riddles. I like this. The drumming on here from Tommy is excellent, and it's got some great guitar work. Like that track. Then we get a cover of a Sweet song called AC/DC, which is off the Sweet Fanny Adams. It's not a bad version, but I prefer the original, of course. It's just a classic off that album. First track that they redone off Naked was 5. Now this version is a lot heavier and it sounds better. It does finished. It sounds more complete. It's a really good song now. Then we got the title track Naked. Definitely sounds a lot better. It's got that richer guitar and the production has been much better and it sounds really good. Everybody knows now this is the one that's such a vast improvement on the original, but it's still not one of my favourite songs, but it sounds a lot better. Change the World, new song. This is my favourite song. It's got so much of that punk sound to it. It's really full of energy. Then we've got Androgynous again, replacements. I love the version off Naked, but this is even better. The vocals sound better. They've really tweaked this one and it sounds good. Fetish. Now, this was my favourite song on Naked. But again, they've improved it. It sounds much richer and it's a really good track. Water Sign. So much improved, but it's still not my favourite track. Now, one of the tracks that really sounds a lot better, and that's Tube Talking. It does sound like a proper track. Again, the next one, Turn It Around from Naked. As I said, it was a little bit lacklustre on Naked, but this, with that extra beef and whatever they've done, it's a great song now. Really like that one. Baby Blue, again, it sounds a lot better. And 100 Feet Away, another version of this. God only knows why. I don't know why they had to re-record that one. And then Bad Time. This is a song that's, I think she's recorded a few times, but this is a really good version. Okay. Sinner is the tracks from Naked sound a far lot better, and I think that's the best thing they did was redo that album and not release it anywhere else. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.6. Okay, then coming in at number 6, we have the 12th album released in 2013. And this is the last real heavy proper rock album that she's put out up to now. So joining Joan is Dougie Needles on guitars, AC Slade on bass, Tommy Price on the drums, and Kenny Laguna on keyboards. And special guest on one track, Dave Grohl. So the first track on here is called Any Weather 606 version, written by Joan Jett and Dave Grohl. Now Dave Grohl plays every instrument on here, believe it or not, and it's pretty good. It just shows what an all-round musician Dave Grohl is. Then we get a track called TMI. Love the drumming on this. This is so 1970s drumming. I love that sort of bubblegum rock sound. Mick Tucker sort of great heaviness. Great track. Soulmates to the Stranger. Solid track. Some nice guitar work on here. And Joan Jett is still sounding as good as she did in the day. Her voice, she's looked after that voice. Make It Back, solid enough. It's okay. It just sits there nicely. Hard to Grow Up. Just classic sounding Joan Jett. I find with the Blackhearts, doesn't matter who's in the band, the sound hasn't changed much, which is pretty good. It's pretty consistent. Fragile, just a Brexit rock and roll track, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Then we get my favourite track on this one. It's called Reality Mentality. It's probably the best vocal on the album from Joan, and it just sounds so good. Bad As We Can Be, sort of a punk rocky sound still, full of energy. She hasn't lost her roots, which is pretty good. Then we get Different. Now this is different. it doesn't just suit her, I don't think. Then Everybody Needs a Hero. I'm not keen on this one at all. Just a little lacklustre. Apart from the last two tracks, the album is very solid, and it just proves that she can still go out there and pump it out. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 5, we have the third album from 1983, and it is just called Album. So we've got Joan Jett, and then we've got Ricky Byrd, Gary Ryan, Lee Crystal, the Uptown Horns. So it's that classic sounding. So the first track on here is called Fake Friends. Just a good old gutsy rocker with a great vocal from Joan Jett. Handyman. Catchy hook. Straight in. Great song. Like that one a lot. Then we get a cover, and this one's a Sly and the Family Stone cover, and it's their great Everyday People. And they do a great version of this. It's a lot heavier, of course. Family Stone's a little funkier. It's a great song, and they've done this one justice. Then we get another version of 100 Feet Away, which is probably the first one, and I don't know why they re-recorded this, because this has got more punch and more gritty riffs than the re-recorded ones. Then we get Secret Love. Solid track again, very consistent. Does what it says on the tin, basically. Then we get my favourite on here, and it's called The French Song, and it's a very post-punk song. Lots of energy again, great riffs, superb little song. Then we get another cover, and this is a Bobby Lewis cover, Tossing and Turning. Totally different, of course, from Bobby Lewis's version, but boy is this good. Why Can't We Be Happy? It's one song that I think Joan actually sounds flat. I don't know, it just didn't sound right. Then we've got a Runaway song, I Love Playing With Fire, which is a fab song. When she does pull out the Runaway song, she still does them good. Then we get Coney Whitefish. It's got a good start to this. And I don't know why she did this as an acoustic, because it just didn't work. But this is great. Had Enough is a great raunchy rocker to end the album. Another solid album. Some great tracks on here. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.1. Okay, coming in at number 4, we have the 8th album from 1991. Notorious. Joining Joan now, we've got Ricky Byrd on the guitars, Phil Fate is on bass, Tommy Price on the drums, and then the Uptown Horns, and then loads of other people come in and have a go as well. First track is called Backlash, solid rock track, like that a lot. Then we get Ashes to the Wind. Some nice vocals from Joan here. Solid track. Then we have a track called The Only Good Thing You Ever Said Was Goodbye. My favourite track on here, which I'm surprised at because it's Desmond Childs wrote it, but it's the drums, that 70s sounding drum, that makes it my favourite. Lie to Me. This is a little bit different. It's a bit of more of a ballady side thing, but it is a nice track. Don't Surrender, probably a very radio friendly commercial sounding track written by Desmond Child, and it's pretty good. I quite like that. Goodbye's next, again very commercially sound, but it really is good, and the guitar solo on that is pretty hot. Matches Some Mo, I think. Good rocker, good guitar work as ever. Then we have a track called A Thread in Water. Back to that bubblegum rock sound. Pretty good. I Want You, great rocker. Some nice keyboards in this. Then we go to another Runaways track, Wait For Me. Again, once again, Joan delivers on her own songs. It's just great that she's brought these tracks out and she does great versions of them. Okay, this is a mixed album. It's a more commercial sounding album, but it's a very solid album. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.3. Okay, moving into the top 3. So, okay then, coming in at number 3, we have the 9th album released in 1994, Pure and Simple. Now this is the first album to feature a new lineup of the Blackhearts, as Ricky Byrd and Kazim Sultan had left the band. So, joining Joan Jett now is Tony Ray on guitars and Kenny Harrison on bass, Tommy Price on drums. Ricky Byrd is on here, and we've got some guests singers. We've got Kathleen Hanna and the late Mike Howell from Metal Church. So the first track on here is Go Home. It's a lovely bluesy song with a harmonica. I do like that. Eye to High, typical Joan Jett Blackheart sound. Hasn't changed, even though the lineup's changed. Still know it's Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Then we get my favourite track on here. It's called Spinster. I love the start of this. You get the wedding march. You think, what's going on? And then it just rocks up. Great riffs. Joan's on fire. I love that track. Torture. Great catchy tune. As ever, great vocals from Joan. Rubber and Glue comes next. Soft. It's a more of a soft punk sounding sound, if you can get my energy. It's full of energy, but it's a little bit, it's gritty, but it's soft, and the same thing. As I Am. Nah, I don't like that. It's just, I don't know what they've done. It's just the balance on it. It's a Desmond Child track, and it's not very good. Then we have a track called Activity Grill. Spelled G, 3 R's and an L. Very distinctive Blackheart sound. Driving riffs, what more do you need? Insecure. I just love these catchy hooks and riffs from Joan Jett. Solid track. Wandering, again, solid, hooky, foot tapping. Consumed. Little bit of a filler, this track for me. It's not one of the better tracks. You've Got a Problem. It's got one of these sort of anthem sort of songs, sing along sort of song. Brighter Day, bit of a filler. Not keen on that one. Okay, this is a really strong album apart from them filler tracks, but the other tracks are just great. I play this album quite a lot, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, then coming in at number 2, we get to the 6th album from 1988, the second album I brought by Joan Jett, and it is Up Your Alley. So this is Joan, Ricky, Kazim, Tommy, and the Hurtdown horns, and Ronnie Lawson does the keyboards. Opens up with the great I Hate Myself for Loving You, probably one of the best songs Desmond Child co-wrote. I love this, probably my third favourite song by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Riding with James Dean, I love this. Great track. Great riffs. Little Liar, it's just got Desmond Child written all over it. He could have written this for any of the bands that he's known, like Bon Jovi or Aerosmith. It's alright. Then we get a Chuck Berry cover. Now it's not the usual ones. This is Tulane, and it's a great version of this song. You know, there's not many people that do this as a cover, and Joan had a go and she does a good version. Then we have another cover. This is a Stooges song written by Iggy Pop. I Wanna Be Your Dog, and it's a great version of this great classic song by the Stooges. It's absolutely brilliant. I Still Dream About You. Again, we got more of these really hooky, catchy riffs. Memorable song like that one. Next we get You Want In, I Want Out. Solid track. Another Jett child pen song. Really good. Just like in the movies. Love the start of this. It's got some great riffs and a great vocal from Joan. Desire. It's not a bad song. Not my favourite, but it's okay. Then Back It Up. Dominated by the drums and the guitars. Solid track. Play That Song Again. A bit of a filler. Solid album from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Some great tracks on there. There are a couple of my favourite tracks by them. And I play this one a lot as well. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. So, coming in at number 1. The very first Joan Jett and the Blackhearts album I brought on cassette. From 1981, second album. I Love Rock and Roll. So with Joan on this is Ricky Byrd, Gary Ryan, Lee Crystal. Kenny Laguna is on percussion and keyboards. So it opens up with a cover, but it's the best song that Joan Jett and the Blackhearts recorded. It's a cover of the Arrows song, I Love Rock and Roll. Now, I love the Arrows version, but this is the best version for me. I think it's got a little bit more beef. It's my favourite song recorded by Joan Jett. Alan Merrill, of course, big in the Arrows, wrote this, played in Meatloaf's band, sadly passed away of COVID. It's just a great song. Then we get I'm Gonna in brackets and then Runaway. Great track. Blew me away when I first heard it. It's that driving riff at the beginning. Then we have a track called Love Is Pain. I love this track. It's probably one of my favourite tracks by Joan Jett. And it's got some great driving riffs. Then we have a song called Nag. Now this is a Halo song by the Halos, written by Arthur Cryer. It's quite a fun song, always has been, but this is much heavier than the Halos version. I just love it. And it's a very good version of it. Then we have a classic from it, Crimson and Clover. Big hit for her. It's a great track, and I love that track. Victim of Circumstance comes next. Very Runaways. And I do like that track, and that's probably why I like it. And then we have another cover, and it's my favourite Dave Clark 5 track, A Bits of Pieces, and they do a stonking version of this. Even down to the stamping of the feet. It's just great. Good track, good cover. Be Straight. The riffs in this are terrific. The drumming tone is brilliant as well. It's a great track. You're Too Possessive, one of my favourite tracks. I love Joan's vocals on this. Driving guitars. And then we've probably got the only blip, proper blip, I think, on this album. And it's a version of Little Drummer Boy. What are they doing? I've never played this. It's awful. Apart from that, the rest of the album's fantastic. Okay, there's a lot of covers on it, but I don't care because it's the first album I brought by Joan Jett, and I played this to death. It was constantly in my Walkman to the point where I wore the tape out. And by 1983, it had gone to Warbly stage, so it was time to buy it on CD. Probably one of the first CDs I ever brought, and it's just a song from my album from my childhood. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay. Marathon on a Thursday, but next week it's back to Wednesday. This is all today because I'm going to watch T-Rex see tonight. But I'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow where we have got a live album ranking of Paul McCartney and 2 new albums to look out. One is Def Leppard's Drastic Symphonies and the other is Mr. Graham Nash. And the album now, 81 years old and still putting out fresh material. Great stuff. So that's all to come tomorrow. All that leaves me to say is have a nice day, and always thank you for your support on the channel. Bye for now.